So real quickly here, we have a demo we prepared to show you just how easy it is to actually set up a migration workflow with the Myria software. Real here, and I'm just going to pause it for 1 second. I'm going to pause my demo so you can see it. You're actually seeing putting in a username. You're going to put your password in, webinar, and basically we built a webinar demo for you guys. We used a webinar database. And this is a simple HTTP interface. You don't need any special GUI, run it from one of your browsers. What you see here is when you first get in, here's my migration web page and dashboard, which there's nothing yet available because all you've done is installed the software. So we have to configure our infrastructure. And if you remember what I talked about before, we had data movers or agents, and you'll see them in the upper right corner here. We talk about NASs, shared file systems, but agents. And these are the sources or the appliances that will move data, or facilitate that movement from source to target. So we have to define those first because we're starting with a brand new configuration here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up to our agents here, and they've been preloaded, and you'll see there's 2 of them. And all you simply have to do is once the software is loaded and pointed to the server, you just go ahead and select them and tell them to add the agents. Done, they're ready for usage. The next thing we'll do here is we'll go up to the right, and you'll see when you add a NAS, add another shared file system, maybe add another agent if you add some later, and you can because it's a flexible system. We're going to go ahead and choose our NAS. And here's our pull down with all the different NASs we talked to. And I mentioned the ability to use the fast scan and snapshot. You notice if we select an Isilon, an advanced storage integration tab pops up, which will give you those abilities to configure snapshotting and fast scan in the settings afterwards. So here we're going to do an other, or generic, right? Which you notice all we have is a protocol type Windows, NFS, and select our 2 data movers. From there, we'll just go ahead and click next. And now we're going to go ahead and define our NAS name. Now this could be an IP address. This could be a resolvable name. I always recommend use resolvable names. It just makes life easier. In this case, we're going to use an IP address for our demonstration here. Session user. Now, if this is our source, session user just needs to be something that can read on the database, or excuse me, read on the source, right? Don't need to have write permissions. If we were actually setting up fast scan and snapshotting, there'd be you see another little page here that would actually tell you, ask for the admin access so we can talk to the API. In this case, as we're doing generic, not needed. So with that, we've configured a source. Now to check it, you simply click on the I button to see if you can browse it. As you can see here, we can browse through. There's different vols we can talk to. So we know we're communicating with our source storage, but now we need to put it somewhere. So where's our target going to be? So what we'll do is we'll go up. We'll go ahead and select add another NAS. Again, we'll select the type here. Again, we're going to use a generic other. We'll use both data movers. So what we're doing is we're putting these data movers in a pool. We'll go ahead and give this NAS a name. In this case, we're going to use a name resolve Jekyll, a domain user here with access to read and write to the source. And then we'll go ahead and put our password, confirm our password, the standard security procedures most software uses today. We'll go ahead and add that NAS. And then we can go ahead and we can check it as well. Make sure we can browse it. As you see, we can, different file systems we can walk through. So we've set up our data movers in our NAS. Now what we need to do is we're going to go back to migration. Now we need to set up our tasks and projects. Projects the top level here. And you can have one project, you can have many projects. Projects can do multiple tasks. We'll give our project here a name. We're going to use webinar. We'll go ahead and add that project. And just to show the flexibility, we're going to we'll add another project. We'll call this one webinar 2. Go ahead and add that. So that's our overlaying and controlling project. Now we need to define some tasks to physically do those data movements. And we'll do that here. You notice you see select source and target. You can just click on find source, and there's our different targets. We had that guy as our source. We'll pick this guy as our target. we'll go ahead and move on to actually defining what we want to move. So now you see each of those have been set up. You can go ahead and browse each of them. We'll go ahead, we'll go down to, we'll say vol ADA to ADA, and we'll go and we'll take a look at on the source. We'll come from data, we'll maybe go to test. Let's do data 1 to maybe what, test 1. We'll do data 2 to test 2. We'll do data 3 maybe to test 3 gross. Now this is a small data set, so it's not going to take a long time to run. Just want to give the idea of setting it up. One thing to note here, you can do inclusions and exclusions here at the bottom. What this allows you to do is you can exclude files and directories. I always recommend to people, if it's an Isilon or a Cumula or something else, or something storing snapshots, you don't need to migrate those snapshots to a different piece of storage. They're not really going to use it. Go ahead and exclude those here. One thing to keep in mind, exclusions are the top priority. So we'll do exclusions first, then we'll do inclusions. So if you exclude something and try to include it, it's not going to get there because we've already excluded it. Just a quick little point there. And then, of course, you can do files, you can do directories on both levels. So once you've set this up, you can go ahead and click Next. And now you'll see the storage features. So the synchronization type. I talked about before, we typically do an echo mode. This is the default. Just so everybody, I'll do just a real quick overview of this. Echo mode, anything happening on target is mirrored, anything happening on source is mirrored to target. There are 4 other modes depending on the workflow. The only other one you ever really seen used a lot is contribute, and that's because somebody already has something in that target area. The difference there, contribute, all it does is it does all changes and additions. It just won't do deletes on the target. The other 2 are used for synchronization and not really used in the migration page. But just want to know they are there and they're available for usage. So we'll go ahead and we'll set ours for echo. And now you can go down to the next one. We can allow scheduling. This is pretty neat. So you can schedule any day of the week. You can do different weeks. So I can do every first Monday, every third Tuesday, whatever it happens to be. I can set morning and afternoon tasks. I can also tell it every 5 minutes or choose my interval after the hour. Maybe I want to do it at 5 or 10 or 15. So I want to do it at 18, 15. One thing to keep in mind here, and I was going to talk about threads, but just before I do, I want to talk about split tasks, because you noticed we had 3 tasks underneath that one job. So they'd all run underneath that job. What this split task will do is if you turn this on, it will actually split out each of those tasks, think of it into separate jobs, and then you can apply the number of job parallelizations across those tasks I'm about to talk about. So you get more jobs in play, more threads in play, more data movement in play all at once. And which you can do here after if you turn on split tasks, and you go down and set up threads. Now threads, there's a simple formula for this that I tell most people, and it's usually the lowest common denominator. So we had 2 data movers. If one of that data mover was 32 cores and the other one was 16, then it would be 16 divided by 2, or in this case, our thread number would be 8. You had all 32 core data movers, you'd set this to 16. And the reason is data movers are also failoverable or HA to each other. Should one fail, another one can pick up their task on the next run. You don't want to overload a single data mover, so using half of those threads for copy tasks keeps the other half available for ingesting data, doing other work, and so forth, so you don't run out of resources. So in our case here, we have a smaller setup. It's only an 8-core system. We're going to go ahead and set our number of threads to 4. And then our next set here is our job parallelization. So within the job parallelization, this is where you can think of, okay, we can do multi-threading by setting our number of threads, but I've got data movers. I want to be able to parallelize my jobs and my tasks over my data movers, right? So I can take full advantage of all my resources. You can do that here where you can actually define the maximum number of simultaneous parallel jobs. Now, that's parallel jobs under that defined project task. If you turn on split tasks, I'm going to get that number of jobs run against each task that's been split out, because it almost actually makes them look like separate jobs or separate tasks. So in this case, you can set the number, and then below it, you see a few criteria. So this is starting a new job after so many minutes. In this case, setting to 0 is a null, so it won't use that parameter. Size in gigabytes, that's you see 1 terabyte defined, or number of files. Now, keep in mind, if you set the number of simultaneous jobs to 1, all you're going to do is scan and then move data. But as you increase that, if I set mine, and we're going to set ours to 4, what I can do is I can start my scan. And after 250,000 files scanned, I'll start moving them. That spins up a second job. And I'll keep scanning because my first job is still running. And then when I get to my next threshold, I'll spin up another one and another one. So you get the idea. I can get multiple jobs running in parallel. When I get to my max of 4 jobs, the scanning will stop because all 4 jobs are transferring. But as soon as any job finishes, it'll just go right back to scanning, look to find that next set of data, and start to move it. And it'll do this until it continues and finishes the task. So in our case here, we'll go ahead, we'll set ours again to 4, just to make life simple for the demonstration here. And then we'll go ahead and let's just change the size to 0 as well. This way it won't only do anything on 250,000 files. And then down below, you see the copy mode, move everything, sorry about that, only move ACLs and permissions. So some people already have a file system built and they just want to migrate just those permissions. You can do that there. One of the last things you're going to do here is define our task. Or basically a task name called my task. Now what you can see here is we're back to the main migration page. We're going to go ahead and just say start tasks. And ask you, do you want to launch them? You can say yes. And it will fire up those tasks that we defined. So the first thing it's going to start doing on that source storage, it's going to start a scan, looking for all the data contained within those tasks. When it finds something on our threshold, 250,000, it'll start a transfer. Now the scan is going to take a little while. This is our lab system, but you can see it's updating. It's usually about every 15 seconds, you'll get an update down in the bottom window here, and it shows you last run. In this case, it'll be first run, because we'll show you first run, we'll show you an incremental run, we'll show you last run in this dashboard. And we'll give this one a few more seconds here. So what we've done, we're going to log out here now. We're going to log into our system that we already have some data showing on, and we're going to see exactly what a dashboard looks like after it's populated data. The reason being is the dashboard itself, most people want to see what the data looks like in a daily run, right? So what you're seeing here is, you notice we see last run, old projects is completed green, so it's done here. Webinar 2003 actually still running here. But I want you to notice up at the top, you'll see basically the first run there, and then it looks like a step, right? So we did our first seed of data, but now as we run our incrementals, we can see as days gone on the 29th to the 1st, a lot less data was transferred. Now you can see across the top where you're looking at how much was migrated, it's almost like it's a mirror or an inverse, right? So we're going up a little bit in data transferred, total, cumulative, but actual daily transfer is going down because we're doing those incrementals. And they're doing them very, very quickly using that snapshot feature I was talking about. So what you can see here is it's basically in a total. You can look across, you can actually move your mouse to these data points. It'll give you information of what's going on. You can choose to look at objects moved or the total volume, depending on what kind of data you're trying to actually move in on. You can look at a global, or now you can look just at a particular task. So you can actually see which task is running at which speed, moved how much data. And also you can do the reverse from size. You notice it's doing less and less over time on the average speed because we're really not moving much. Maybe it's large files. Maybe we're running, it's a heavy load on the network, but it'll give you a particular load run, as well as now, as I mentioned, you can switch and look at objects. Here we can see the objects. They're transferred over a particular time frame. And then one other quick little tidbit here is you can get into each task. You notice it gives you a run, right? And you can see they're getting smaller and smaller in time. There's a green thumbs up status basically telling you everything ran good. If something was failing or had a problem, you'd see it in red. But you also can click on the logs. And the reason why we wanted to show you this is you can actually take a look into, and you notice here at the very top, our number of threads is 4. So it's kind of telling you your configuration, a little bit about it. But you can get debug information. You can get just regular system information that started a copy from a particular system to a particular system. But you notice down here in red, we do some failures, so you could also see those. You can see we're unable to find some object and directory we're expecting. So we scanned it, we expected it to be there. We go to do the move, well, maybe it got deleted. So we can work on ongoing projects that are having data added and deleted on a daily basis. You'll just get a notification, hey, that object wasn't there, or whatever happened, that error happened. Maybe for some reason the password was wrong to get into the SMB share. It'd tell you in here that I couldn't access the SMB share. So a lot of good information there, but also what you can do is you can actually filter on severities, but also on particular dates, particular times. So you can actually drill into when a run was going on. Of course, there's a refresh button, and you can reverse, how you're looking at the data from time frame wise. So top to bottom, bottom to top, or oldest to youngest, so forth. And with that, that's really a complete setup of the migration. That took very quick, very simple to use, standard web browser, no need for anything extra other than software and hardware.